To the cloud. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's Kevin. Today, I am a guest I've been wanting to have on for quite a while. We met really technically a year, but 2 seasons ago, 2 shows ago. Chris Gentry from um, MSA, which is really cool because he's going to show us tonight how you can really fine tune your customer base in your area within your website with basically doing nothing on your end to really maximize your time in the office and any type of advertising that you're going to be doing and in building your route density. So good evening, Chris. How are you? Thank you for
I'm
coming on.
I'm doing well. It's good to see you.
It's great seeing you. So just a little back history. We met 2 seasons ago at Jason Creel's Lawn Care Life, and you were sitting at my table, or I was sitting at your table, however you want to say it, with a whole mix of people, which was cool. And we ended up sitting next to Jonas, which I didn't even realize. Oh, what a business that gentleman has,
Oh
and the
yeah.
pest control
Yep.
business. So you never know who you're sitting with. And you were there mainly talking at the table about your can cleaning business. So it's a trash can cleaning business. But you were also talking about what we're going to talk about tonight. And it really didn't hit home, I think, at our table just because there was so much going on. It was my first year meeting new people, and we didn't have enough time to really dig in, you and I, and talk about it. And then we go through a whole season. You end up reaching out to Joey Coberly, the landscaping bookkeeper, who I use, Megan and Joey, and you're friendly with them, and you were just on their podcast. And you reached out to me via email wanting to have a conversation about this. And me being an owner operator, difficult, I didn't get back to you as fast as I should have. But then my wife and I, Stacy, go down to the Lawn Care Life, and you pulled me aside and I was willing, and you blew my doors off with a presentation. And that's what I want to do tonight. I want you to really explain, and we can talk about your business, your day-to-day business of going out with a trash cleaning business, but your passion has been in what, computer software design, basically? Is that what you're?
Well, I'm an idea guy, right? I have problems and I try to find a way to solve those problems with software. I,
What,
I,
so
I
what was
worked
the
in the
problem you
corporate
had for
world.
this?
So the problem I had was because of Happy Cans. I bought Happy Cans about 5 years ago, and the young guy that I bought it from was just a yes guy. Every request that came in, he would just say yes to. And for context, he had Jobber set up. So I kept that in place. I still use Jobber today, even though it's not really made for bin cleaners, but I make it work. And so on that request page, anytime somebody requests, he would say yes to. So that first quarter of ownership, I was just tracking the miles that I was traveling. And then when I would get home, especially in the summertime when those maggots, that my favorite sales staff, they're in overdrive. And, I would come home and I would have all these requests that I would have to sift through and look up every address to see if I would travel that far. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. But I mean, some of those days I was traveling over 100 miles round trip. And so I was losing money. And, in these Facebook groups of bin cleaners, I was like, hey guys, what are you guys using to filter requests or build zones, or what are you using out there? And people said, I'm not using anything, or I'm using a zip code filter. And I said, well, I can't use a zip code filter because I service parts of the zip code, not whole zip codes. I mean, I'm in an area where there's only a small part of the Charleston kind of tri-county area where zip codes are close together. But the zip codes are pretty big areas, square miles. And so, I would only service pockets of them. And I was like, well, maybe there's something out there that can solve my problem. Looked around, nothing could solve my problem. And then I found somebody that could build MSA, or my service area, for me, had it built, put it on the Happy Can site. And then after implementing that, I ended up like firing 60, 70 customers because they were just too far. As a crow flies on a map, it doesn't look that far. But with the traffic and the number of bridges you have to cross down here in Charleston market, it just didn't make financial sense, And so that's how my service area came about. And I gave it away for a long time to bin cleaners. And then now kind of moving away from bin cleaners and getting more into, the lawn care world. And that's really where, why I was at Lawn Care Life last year and again this year, is just to keep on networking and building those relationships and meeting great people like you.
Thank you. How how long ago did you actually implement this in your business? I mean, when did you create this or have it created?
So the end of 21, I think it was the fall of 21 is when I started using my service area or MSA. And it was very I mean, it was really basic. It was which I'll show you, just a little bit in just a little bit about creating a zone. It was just like, okay, you can only create a couple of zones. You attach it to your website. And the way that my service area works is if you have a WordPress site, it's a plugin. If you have Squarespace or Wix or another third party website, it's a line of code that you put on the back end. And so MSA lives on your website. And so it was very basic. And I made a post in one of the bin cleaning groups that I was in. I said, "Hey, I built this tool. Anybody out there want to use it for free and help me?" And
Test it out.
yep. And I had five guys that raised their hand. All but one of them is still with me. The one that is gone, he sold his business. But the other ones are still with me to this day. And they've been a tremendous help in, providing feedback in helping it, evolve. And now, even as we get more lawn care customers, that is kind of the next evolution of what do we add to bring more value for our customers, because we don't want to be a CRM. We don't want to be a routing and scheduling tool. I mean, for the lack of a better term, we want to be this little widget that is part of your business that brings a ton of value. Because, usually a lot of people that use MSA, they kind of set it and forget it, which is a great thing, but also we want you to use the data that is in there as well.
So we're gonna share screens in a minute, and Chris, you're gonna show basically what I saw. But the importance of what you explained to me was one is saving time. So you said it just a couple minutes ago. You would get these leads that came in, and you would have to sift through and filter them. Now you can set that up in a geofencing, and you have some other things that are coming down the road, which we talked to prior before recording, which I'm really excited about. But it cuts down on the time and your focus of where you are going to concentrate your business, so we can build that root density, because that's what our business, any type of service business, that's what it's a goal is, to be tight, not behind the windshield, trucks in park. That's when we make money. So this little tool that you have, like you said, that just lives in the backside of your website, but is on the front page. And that happens by someone inquiring in your service. They punch in their address, and then you take it from here. You can explain it from there.
Yeah, and let me so a visitor comes to your website, they click on get a free quote, get a free estimate, request service, request a quote. They click on a button, whatever button you have on your site, or contact us even. The MSA window pops up and says you can have it say whatever you would like, but your time matters. So let's make sure we service your address first. They enter in their address, MSA checks it. If they're in, they get through. If they're out, it says something to the effect of, "Hey, sorry, it looks like we may not service your address, but we're a growing company. Leave us your name, number, and email. We'll follow up with you." But again, you can have the language say whatever you would like. And if I could back up something, because I missed one key point here to when I bought Happy Cans, life before MSA and then life after MSA. So in the summer, I'd have all those requests to go through. Before MSA, I was looking up every address on Google Map. Well, after MSA, I would look in Jobber and I would see my request and go, guess what? All 5, 6, 7 of those requests are good because they're in my service area. So now I can move forward. I don't have to look them up. I can get them on the route, and just go that way. And I didn't have to say no to all those other people either. That was the other thing, that if I didn't service their address after looking it up, I'd have to type up an email or send a text message or call them the next day and say, "Hey, sorry, we don't service your address." And so
So this development came from basically some pains that you had. You just
personal pain. Yep.
simplify your business but become extremely efficient. You explained to me when you showed me the demo, being in downtown Charleston, and I've been there numerous times, it's not the easiest town to move around in, especially when
Right.
you're going around in some type of service vehicle.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you showed me how precise it could be. There's some streets that you can't get your truck down, so you eliminate those in a zone so that those people don't reach out to you or can't get an estimate from you because you just can't service them.
Exactly. At this time, that is 100% correct. Even though, and I think I shared this with you with, my CPA was Chris, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I said, there's a method to my madness, but I
Believe
mean,
it or not, I know what I'm
yeah.
doing.
Yeah, but I get it. It's hard to say no. MSA takes that off your plate because it says no automatically for you. I mean, I just had some inquiries this week. Since you've been down Charleston, Kiowa, have you heard of Kiowa? Where the golf tournament and, homes are,
No.
5 million, 15 million, 20
Oh,
million.
yeah, that's where I stay typically.
It's just south of Charleston. It's probably, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes an hour from here with traffic. And I had inquiries today, earlier this week or last week, from Kiowa, and I'm not driving all the way down there to service 3 or 4 cans. Just financially, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I'd have to charge $100 a can to make it worthwhile. Now, those people
Yeah,
can probably afford that, but, would they pay that? Is a different
but you
thing.
still don't want to spend that time
Right.
driving. I mean,
Exactly.
sometimes the money's just not worth the squeeze by any
Yeah.
means.
Yep. Exactly.
Cool.
So you want me to jump in?
Yeah, I want to see it again because I saw it while we're basically eating tacos the lawn care life and allow that and
And, you know, I got to say, I love reactions. I was so excited walking away from that conversation because the energy and just your reactions to what I was showing to you and your route. And what's even makes it even more, appreciative is that your route density is phenomenal. I mean, you are like a poster child of route density.
I said the word no, but now and I'm having a new website built and Chris's program is going to be built right into it. So I don't even have to like I've gotten inquiries today that I can't service those areas. So they would automatically be just gone. Something I didn't have to deal with. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Here's the good stuff.
All right. So this is my live account. And what you're looking at here is the dashboard of MSA. And it's nothing fancy. It's just, straightforward, um, you know, information on this dashboard. And so what we're looking here right now, under recent activity, it defaults to 7 days, but you can do 24, 7, 30, 90 and custom. And this first section here is your service locator views. So what this means is, and let me even take it a step further and show this. Here's my Happy Cans website. And so I have MSA attached to check address and request service. And I have a Squarespace website for this business. And so it's just a line of code that I've added. So when I click on that, it pops up. Your time matters, so let's make sure we service your address. So if I start typing in an address, it's going to give me, it's going to start auto-populating it.
Mhm.
And when I find my street, which this is not my street, I think this is going to be outside of my service area actually. I say, okay, that's my address. It's going to check. And guess what? It's going to come back and it's probably going to say, sorry, looks like you're outside of our service area, but let's make sure. So now I can enter in my name, my email, my phone number, and then hit submit. That will be collected in MSA. And another thing is, over time, as you start collecting addresses, every time an address is entered into MSA, it drops a pin. So over time, you get all those pins. You can see where those inquiries are coming from. You can see where your zones are. You can see where you can grow, where you can shrink. That leads into marketing. How more efficient can you be in marketing and your dollar spend when you have information? But I'll talk about that later. So,
And the nice thing about that is, I mean, literally been doing this business for almost 40 years, is as you grow from, we used to work in a concentric circle, so we would try to be nice and tight in that center. And as you start collecting this data outside of your work zone, when it's time to move into those work zones, you already have the knowledge of people that are looking for that type of service. It can, I think, talking to you prior to the recording of what you have coming up in your sleeve is really going to turn into some very, very insightful data for marketing in the future as you grow and scale your business.
yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's a big hypothesis that we have, and I'll talk about that when I get to the map page because I think it's phenomenal, especially with the use of wrapping AI into it on the back end of MSA and having that power to quickly analyze things and give you suggestions, I think it's going to be awesome. But back to this dashboard. So anytime a website visitor clicks on a button that MSA is attached to, we count that. And so out of 8 clicks, 5 people entered in their address, 4 was out. So in this example, I didn't have to look up 5 addresses. I didn't have to respond to 4 people. So time saver. And then referrals, you lawn care people out there that are listening to this or watching this, send me ideas of how to leverage this in the lawn care world. We built this functionality for our bin cleaners because our bin cleaners were like, hey, I'm friends with my buddy on the other side of town that uses MSA. We both use MSA. But, I'm getting inquiries that he services and he's getting inquiries that I service. How can we, automate this and help one another out? So basically, we built this referral system within MSA where MSA customers, if you're part of the referral network and somebody comes to your website and types in an address, it will say, like if they were on the Happy Can site, I'm not connected to anybody, but on the Happy Hand site, if somebody typed in an address and I didn't service their address, but Charleston Clean Cans did, it would say, hey, Happy Cans doesn't service your address, but our friends over at Charleston Clean Cans do. Would you like to go to their website? And there would be the button to go to their website, and they would take them automatically to the website, and that information would be logged here.
Now, is that referral piece, is that live now?
Oh yeah. But
Oh, it is.
they're bin cleaners that are using it. We don't have any lawn care people that are using it.
But it's available for them to use.
Yep. And what it needs to, there needs to be that kind of gentleman's agreement because and what I mean by that is if lawn care A and lawn care B are friends and they're working in the same town, but they don't service, certain areas, but one of them does, one of them does. If they say, hey, yeah, join us together, then what we would do is say, okay, A and B are in the referral. And so, yeah, I hope that made sense.
It does, because I have 2 people I can put in there that there's just geographically, I don't go to those areas, and they would definitely be the ones I would recommend them to.
Gotcha. So now let's jump over to the map page. So when you sign up for my service area, there are 3 levels. There's a starter, a mid. We renamed it with Stephanie. Starter, I think maybe plus, and then premium. Forgive me, but the pricing is based on the number of zones that you need. So in the starter, you get up to 3 zones. The middle tier, you get up to 6, and the top tier, you get 12. And so it really depends on how many zones that you need. And we have some lawn care customers that have 8 and 9 zones because they are so focused on their route density, which is a great thing, that they just have their service areas around the neighborhoods that they service. And that's it. So it's very cool to see that. But this is my service area. See,
It's starter, professional, and premium.
okay.
Just so you
Thank
know
you.
your own website.
Thank you.
I went and looked.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
So these are my zones. As I hover over them, you'll see them highlight this real big one. Kind of do as I say, don't do as I do. This is one huge one that I have followed, interstates and major roads to do that zone, but I wouldn't do it. I would do like this, because you can get down. Let me zoom in.
How
Down
many zones do you have in this example?
ink, and you can just see how easy that was for me to edit that.
So there's a good question. Is that something that the user itself can edit, or you have to?
Oh yeah. Nope. This is all the user.
Got it.
This zone is disabled right now, but I have it labeled tip of the peninsula. It's almost 2 square miles. I've got it disabled. I want to edit this zone. I can give it a name. I can give it a color. It's in draft mode. Like I've given draft mode the nickname of ghost. It's in ghost mode because it's going to prevent people from getting to my registration page or request page, but it's still going to drop a pin in there so I can start seeing the number of pins that drop in that zone. And if you do mailers, or even if you do door hangers, you can take this information of where your inquiries are. You can export the information if you need to, the addresses, or if you have what you should, every MSA customer should have a Google Sheet connected to MSA, because when you have that connection with the Google Sheet, every address that's entered, it dumps it into that sheet. It dumps any contact information into that sheet. And also, you can set up Google to notify you immediately when an address is entered. And so you get that notification. Like in the summer, I usually turn that off in the summer because then it just becomes too much. But, throughout the rest of the year, I have that on. So I get an email of, hey, somebody just entered in their address. I can take a look at it. But yeah, this is where right here, you can see that I clicked too much, but you can see that I don't service right along this main. I don't service this area over here, right along here. This is all commercial. So there's no need for me to even put it in there. People think I'm crazy here too. So when I get a request in here in this area, I will look at it, but they have to agree to do the next morning. I don't do same day service over here. I've got a handful of customers over here that I've just kind of grandfathered in because they've all said, Chris, we love the service. We'll keep it at next day.
So bin gets emptied on Wednesday. You don't get to go there until Thursday to do a cleaning.
Right. I'll be there the next morning. Yep.
Got it.
Yep. Next day service.
So all this that we're seeing here, again, this is just user friendly. You can go in and make your changes. Now, let's say you are starter, which is up to 3 zones. The software itself, as the user, would only allow you to create 3 zones obviously at a time. And then if you wanted a 4th one, reach out to admin to upgrade your.
You would actually do it on the subscription tab.
You can do it all by yourself.
Yeah, you just say, upgrade to the next level, and then that would open up, those other zones. But I've got one big one, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So that gives you the professional. That's the middle grade subscription, which gives you a ton of data.
Yep. See, here's Kiowa Island, I was just talking about.
Definitely have not been down there.
Yeah. So I live up here on the Ashley River, right up here. And so, as a crow flies, I don't know, 12 miles, 15 miles, I'm not exactly sure. But to get there from where I live can take an hour.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't even go to Folly Beach because in the summertime, it can take you an hour and a half to get there. It's just crazy. So let's say that you are at your desk, the phone rings, or maybe you have staff, because we do have some customers that are large enough to have staff and they've got the MSA map window open. They pick up the phone. They say, thanks for calling ABC Lawn Care. How can I help? I'm interested in some lawn service. Fantastic. Kevin, what's your address? I click on address lookup button. I type in an address and MSA says yes or no and drops a pin on them.
So you find out that you can or you can't. Let's say you can't service it, but you're still collecting data for those days that you start to expand into those areas. Now you have resources, like you said, of data to go and do door hangers, marketing in that area, because you've had 30 leads in the last 30 days in that area.
Exactly. Yep.
That's the power I see in this, on top of it saying no without you having to say no, because we know that's the hardest word to say as a small business and an entrepreneur. Just you have the service bug in the back of your brain and you want to serve people. Having that data there ready to go for when you do move into those areas, that I just think is monumental. That was the epiphany at the Lawn Care Life that I saw, because I get the question all the time, and Joey and I have been working together doing a podcast, and questions coming in is, how do I scale and how do I know when it's right to move into another area? And a lot of times you'll have inquiries coming in via email, text, social media, and if you don't have an office person or a good CRM system that's collecting that data for storage, it escapes you after a while. And now you have good clinical data that will allow you to move into that area strategically for the right reason.
Exactly. And it takes the guesswork out of where you should be marketing.
And we know marketing is expensive. So if you are going to charge yourself in it, let's make sure you're going into an area that you already kind of have a leg up and you're going to do some winning right off the bat.
Yeah. So I'm getting ahead of, I'll bite my tongue for a minute. I'll get through this. So you want to create it. You want to add another zone. You click on add a zone up here in the right-hand corner. And then this window pops up. It tells you it's going to be in draft mode. So it's not going to be live. It's not going to affect anything. You click OK. And then it's going to tell you to click on a point on the map. You click on a point on the map, and there it is. It starts you off with a square. It's already got the white vertex circles, and then you just start, drilling in.
All while being able to zoom in as well. You
Exactly.
really can get granular with it.
Yes, we have plenty of customers that have, including myself, I've got areas that I don't want to serve, but one of our largest customers, I think I've told you this story, where he got a complaint on one of the streets, and the person that was complaining was big in local government. And so he was like, I just don't want to mess with this person because he can make my life hell. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to cut out his entire street. So our crew doesn't even go down that street. So we don't have to mess with them. Unfortunately, we're in that area. We have a lot of customers in that area. So there may, we'll miss out on something down there, but not having to deal with him is worth it. So he's cut that whole street out. And then we have a lot of people that use major, highways in their town where they know they get to the other side, or just to get to the other side can be, 30 minutes.
Mhm.
And so they use those as boundaries and say, this is my boundary. This is, as far as I'm going to go. But again, in my world, because it's a luxury service, I have to know where my customers are. And so now that I've identified where my customers are, I need to double down and not worry about all the outliers
Right. You know where you
requests
can
that I get.
pinpoint focus. And yeah, that's the way I've built my route development and route density, is that it just, you need to focus where you're already there, and the more time you spend in that area, the rewards are going to reap. And I see plenty of people just chasing that one off here and the one off there, and all that does is just burn time from you.
And I can tell you, if I would have had a tool like MSA to reference when I was buying Happy Cans, where I could visually see everything, and because this came up with one of our customers that's a pool maintenance customer. Did you know that they sell pool routes? Like, that's a big deal.
Up here being in the north, our pool season is much shorter than yours, but I do know of a couple pool companies in my area, and yes, they have, it's not a bad gig.
Yeah, it's not.
Not a bad gig.
When I was talking to him about the pool maintenance, sorry to get sidetracked, but this just came. So talking about the pool maintenance business, he was like, "Oh yeah, Chris, there are plenty of websites that you can list your pool route on. Your pool maintenance." And I said, "Well, how would MSA help if you were to sell your business? How would MSA help your business?" He goes, "It would be awesome to show these people that." Look at my routes, look at my zones, look at my routes, and look at my inquiries. That's another thing. I mean, what I was getting at is if I had a tool like MSA when I was buying Happy Cans, and I could say, okay, show me your map, your MSA map. I would have probably, lowered my purchase price
So
because he was traveling so far.
So that brings up another question. So you're able to take existing data from someone's CRM system and implement it into MSA so that it shows everything?
Great question. Yes, you can export your customer base out of your CRM that you're using. So Jobber or Spray or LMN, because I think we uploaded Jeremiah's information into his. We can upload that information into MSA. You can color code them on what type of service it is, and then you can filter it like on these pin settings. So for mine, I have frequency. So in my world, it's monthly, quarterly, and then that's all. That I didn't list my one-time cleanings in there, but this is what I've done. And then the origin. This is I have not updated this. I had a zone. I had a service area over here that at the beginning of 24 closed this. I stopped servicing this.
So I'm always looking, as you're looking to solve problems. I'm looking for scalability, but also exit plans in business. So the value of this for customers and possible people that will be buying a business or you selling a business, there are many CRM systems are going to show you some data, but Bingo. This is showing your existing customers, but then inquiries.
These are inquiries.
Yep. So now this is where a potential large company that wants to come in, private equity, someone tuck in, sees information that this, like this level that you've collected, this makes your business much more attractive.
Yep.
Much more. Because you've done the work for them. They can kind of do some analytics of what growth they could see themselves in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool data. And maybe I'm just a data geek, but I've lived this so long that I've seen the value of this and how a smaller business chuck in the truck compared to someone that's taken the time to put and gather data that's out there, and just that little information of paying Chris his little nominal fee every month to have that data, how it will exponentially increase the cost of your business selling price when it's time to go.
So let me ask you this question. Do you think business owners are starting to, like, the VA moment is starting to happen with people that data is my friend? I need to start paying attention to it more. Do you think that's the tides are changing?
I hope so. I don't, the problem I see with it is if you have some, let's say in my world, in the landscape lawn maintenance world, a lot of guys start that because it's one of the very lowest entry of cost of doing a business. There's barely any licensing needing unless you're going to do the fertilization side of it. So their heads are really in the weeds because if they're doing good work, they become busy and they're just working and they don't understand that even though you're just a landscaper, you are a very valuable business in the business world if you are doing it properly. A good CRM system, great process in place, and data collection. Data collection is going to be, and Alan Hain talks about it all the time, and he started back in the military when his story is pretty cool, where email came from the military. That we get the residual of anything the military doesn't want. So cell phones, GPS, all that stuff. When they find better technology, we get it. That I know for a fact. I have a friend in the business in the military, and when I remember when GPS Garmin's came out, everyone had a suction cup to their windshield, and it was the coolest thing ever. And he goes, Kevin, if you think that's cool, I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, I can't talk about it. And he launched rockets for NASA, and he launched every GPS rocket that went out of the Florida area. He goes, and what we've been putting up for the last 3 to 5 years would just make GPS look like a paper map. So the data collection part is so important in the growth. I mean, think about what AI is doing and chat and all that stuff. And if we're not grabbing a hold of that to help run our business or to make our business more successful or to get it ready for an exit plan, because really most people that start businesses don't think about it in the beginning that they should have an exit plan. It's meant to either pass on to a generation with hopefully some financial residual for that, not just give that away, and or build it up to sell it. And a lot of people don't prepare for that. Joey and I see a lot of that where people have a business, but they have no closure to the end of their career or a get out clause at 45 because they're tired and hurt. They haven't been doing these red little pins on a map and showing the potential of that area that you can bring it just to the next level of people looking for a business.
Yeah. The reason why I asked that question is because, I see a lot more conversations on LinkedIn and other social media platforms about data. And so I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that more and more business owners, not only in the lawn care, but across the home service business, since we work with, a hodgepodge of different home service business owners, that they are really starting to say, I need to pay attention to what's going on in my business outside of just the numbers, because let me back up. You mentioned AI, so let me jump in there and just share what we were doing and what kind of sparked this conversation again. So, we've had a handful of customers that we were talking to about marketing. How can MSA bring more value to them outside of the visual part of it, of actually seeing where the inquiries are coming? And so I said, well, why don't we dump your data, and that data being the date, the time, the address, the full address, city, state, and zip. Either, and are they in or are they out? Well, let's do a data dump. Let's upload it into AI and let it and break it down and analyze it for us and spot some trends. And it's unbelievable. It's freaking awesome. And what I shared with you was, top days of inquiries, top areas of inquiries, top zone or zip codes of inquiries, top times of inquiries. Not only did I share this information with you to get some feedback, I shared it with some marketing people that I trust. And they were like, holy cow, because my question to them was, I said, hey guys, have a hypothesis that the data that we collect in MSA could be even more valuable to our customer base. And I want you to look at these few slides and tell me if a new customer came to you or if you had access to this data, would this be valuable to you as a marketing person who's running Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, across the board, no matter what the medium is. If you had this information on when the peak times were and days, would this be valuable to you? And they looked at it and they responded and said yes, especially since with Google ads, you're only limited to zip codes. So having those in and those out addresses and be able to look at that information to go, wow, Mondays and Wednesdays between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. are my prime inquiries. That's where I want to spend my money.
So, I mean, you tie it back to now most people know what the trending times are to post on social media. So they've done a lot of data collection. So this is just another version of that to really efficient way of any type of bankroll of any advertising you're going to do. So you know exactly what times, where, when, and what's going to work for them.
Well, like I've said this before, it takes the guesswork out of it. You've got the data that says, hey, Kevin, if you're going to advertise, you need to advertise on Mondays from 10 to 12 or 10 to 2 and on Wednesdays on 10 to 2 because all your inquiries that we have evaluated over the last 6 months, last year, what have you, this is what it says. And the data doesn't lie, right?
It's a great tool. And again, I think more people, because they're starting and they're getting in with CRM systems, which are great. So a lot of the lawn care maintenance and the Fert Squirt guys have CRM systems. So they're starting to get the understanding that data is powerful. And then, it's just really the tip of the pen of what data can mean to your business. And the more that you can implement, such as this, the more data collection you have, there's all kinds of things. It's marketability stuff. It's solvent of the business itself or the target market area that you're in. I think it's a great tool. I'm excited for it, really am.
Yeah. So it's still a hypothesis. We're waiting. We're working through a couple other things before we map out how to bring this under the hood, if you will, into MSA. But the initial idea is that there would be a marketing tab added over here and then a new dashboard. And then you have the ability to filter on that information. And then if you need to see a map associated with it, you could say, view on map, and it would show the map there.
I know that like you said, you shared with me some cool things on the backside that just make it a little bit more exciting for me. But again, I think this is a great start for what you have coming, which is really neat stuff.
Yeah. I just have a hard time, not understanding why everybody wouldn't use this because, I hear the excuses of I don't mind looking up addresses, I've got it based on zip code. I think this is stupid. I've heard these excuses along the way, and I think that people that respond that way, I don't know how well they're running a business. That's why I kind of question that sometimes when they don't want to embrace something that could bring efficiency. Or I think this is the big thing, and you could probably comment on this. I think they're scared to miss a lead.
Damn, that's a good one. That hits home because I think you're right. They don't understand their business enough to realize that a lead too far away or a job too far away actually probably breaks even or costs them money and they don't realize it, but they're generating revenue and they think that there's residual in that generation, and that's not always the truth. Yeah, that's a great statement.
And, another let me preface this by saying everybody runs their business differently. There's not a one size fits all when it comes to how you run your business. I mean, yes, there are definite paths that you need to take and directions that you need to go to be successful, but you can, curve in and out and get to the same finish line. But I think that if I heard a statement, I'm scared to miss a lead, then in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, how financially secure is your business?
Yeah, I think that goes back to the statement. Everyone's going to run their businesses a little differently. And I think if they had something like this in their website, they wouldn't know that they're missing a lead. So they wouldn't feel the pain or the scaredness of it. It
Right.
could keep them focused in the areas of what they're doing.
Yeah. And one more thing, because I know we've been talking for a while, people, I think, get concerned that it's just one more step that a visitor or a potential lead has to take. But it's closer to 40% of people enter in their address.
And if you think of what you do when you go on a website and when you start looking for things, you've been asked to enter in your address to see if it works for you. I mean, that it's almost normal now, almost like cell phones. Everyone didn't have cell phones at one time, and now everyone has one. More and more, when you go to look for a service on the internet, they're going to need to know where you are or turn on your location if you don't want to type it in to see if they're going to provide service in your area. I don't think that's an outreach by any means anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I tell a lot of people and customers, I was like, you're not going to have 100% of, if your number on the dashboard, if this total number equals this total number, go buy a lottery ticket because it's 1 in 1 trillion that these numbers are going to match up because there are people that go on websites and they just click buttons. They just click around. They're nosy. They're just checking out things, and that's all they're doing. But in the home service world, what are the two prime things you need? Number one, what service do you need if your business happens to offer multiple services, maybe a lawn care? But in my world, it's one service. I need a trash can cleaned, right? Just how many? So I don't really need that. I just need your address though. But there's two things that you need, the service type and your address. You've got to have those two things to provide the service. And so it always scratches my head. I always scratch my head when I hear, well, people don't want to enter their address. Well, how are you going to service them in the first place if you don't get their address? It doesn't make sense.
You don't know. I bet you this week alone, we've had 5 or 6 people reach out, and it happens every week. And they're inquiring about service, but they don't tell us where they are. It's like it shows a red asterisk that you need to enter in your address, and they don't. It's like then you have to reach out again. And Stephanie Thompson's doing our website, so it's going to be mandatory. They can't go any further unless an address is, which I thought that's how mine was. My website right now was a homemade. My son basically did it for me. Yeah, just they need to be more specific in what they're doing and the time that now it's taken my Stacy or myself to reach back out to them politely. Where are you located? Which you want to say, hello, how can I offer you an estimate if I don't know where you live?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So yeah, you to enter your address into some inquiry about service doesn't seem much to me by any means.
Yeah. One side note on the functionality in the address. So let's say that you have a zone far out and you've gotten some inquiries there and you say, you know what, I'm going to open up that zone. Well, you can do address-based pricing. And so what I mean by that is you can tie that zone to if you share pricing. Some people share pricing, some people don't. You have to enter in an address on my website before you can see pricing. I make that mandatory. But if like in that peninsula zone, when they enter in their address for that peninsula zone, they'll go to a different page for me because they're going to have different pricing. And so you can do address-based pricing by zone. So if you have zone A, B, and C, and their address is in zone C, you send them to that C page, and they can see that.
Just
I just
data,
wanted
data,
to
data.
reference that.
Yeah, no, making our jobs easier so that we can be out doing the services we provide instead of the nitty-gritty work in the office that really most of the time we don't like to do anyway. We'd rather just
Yeah,
be out doing what we're.
yeah.
So
At the end
how
of
No. At the end of the day,
I was going to say at the end of the day, I guess there are a lot of people that like looking up addresses, meaning we have a large target market that we're
yeah.
going after.
Hopefully there'll be less and less of them as time goes on. So how will
Right.
people be able to get a hold of you or your service or to take it for a test ride and kick the tires?
All right, I need to clarify something. So there's, unfortunately, we do not offer a test drive. And the
So you
reason being,
just
the
refer them
reason
back to this video then.
yeah. I mean, myservicearea.com or Chris at myservicearea.com. Instagram is myservicearea.com. YouTube is myservicearea.com. But just to explain why we don't have a trial period is because, number one, we've got to get the plugin added to your site or the line of code to your site. So that takes a little bit of time. We do have a $99 setup fee, which helps to cover that. Plus, you have to build your zones. Then we have to attach or activate MSA on your website. So, some people can get this done in 24 hours. Other people, it can take, weeks because of their schedule. It's not we can get the code on the site, within an hour if we have access to it, or if you have a managed website. If Stephanie was managing your website, we could send her the plugin, your business key, and she could upload it or add it to your website, get the business key in there, activate it, send us a message and say, hey, Chris, the website is active and the plugin is active. We click the verify, on the site integration page here, we have a verify now button. We verify it, says, hey, MSA sees it, and we're ready to rock and roll. So
Wow, it happened that fast.
yeah, so that's the one reason why we don't have a free trial. There's a time investment involved in there in getting it set up and live on your website. But, the pricing is minimal. It's $18, $29, $45. All three levels have the same setup fee of $99, a one-time fee. And, you can always upgrade, downgrade, what have you. But, another thing is that we also send you daily emails. Every morning you get an email at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning that says, hey, root development, in the last 24 hours, you've had this many, these addresses were in and these addresses were out.
That's cool. I'm just a data freak. I know I see the importance of it, and I'm hoping more and more people do start to see how it's going to benefit their business. As we talk about on Joey Coberly's show, is buy your time back,
Yeah.
save yourself some time and frustration. And we all have better things to be doing than looking up addresses and seeing if that is a possible lead in our area where this can just all be done on the backside. I think the newness, once the newness is in, the scariness of something new, it's just going to be like, wow, how could I have been doing business without this for so long? I think that's
Yeah.
what I see. I really do.
And by the way, you and Joey are doing a great job. I truly
appreciate that.
enjoy listening
I'm
to the
excited.
show.
We've got some cool things coming in the future, but yeah, we're actually going to be doing some in-person podcasts, I think in May, which is cool. So always fun. We can do a little traveling too.
Yeah.
But he's got a great agenda. It's 28 weeks. It's all about scaling a business, and he has it all laid out. I know what I'm doing week after week after week, which is cool. He really sat down and thought about it, and it's got a plan, and it's just a passion of his to help small businesses grow, become well-performing businesses, and provide for other people.
Yeah. It's awesome.
As yourself. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. I appreciate it. My service area. I mean, it was an epiphany when I saw it, and I'm hoping people refer back to this video. And I'm going to probably release this in 2 parts just so people make sure they go through the whole thing of it so that they can see it on YouTube and understand the value of it and how inexpensive it really is, and the return on investment is going to be pretty massive compared to what you're putting into it.
Well, thank you. And we've got some more
I know
things
you-
coming, which I told you all before we started recording. So it'll
Yeah.
be exciting that hopefully nail those things down in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, and then we'll release those as well because it's just going to be it's a really awesome tool that works on the backside of all this. And you must have some sleepless nights coming up with these ideas and these problems, and then finding the right way to solve them and run it in a can business as well, and kids and
Yeah.
soccer.
Well, the good news is I'm usually not in the truck until 11 or 12 Monday through Thursday. I only work a couple Fridays a month, so that's nice.
To you. Well, I wish I had that schedule, but I don't. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll have all of Chris's contact information in the show notes, but pretty simple. Go to the website, my service area. I've been playing with it while we've been talking. It's, I know who made that website. She did a really nice job, and it's very
He
easy to
did.
navigate. Awesome. All right, Chris, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.